Okay, let's talk about loading libraries and assets both online and offline. So in the previous demo using offline mode, we could load a picture locally within our data folder. We'll do this again. So we have a data folder with a tree sitting in there. If we were using the online version and we wanted to have a loaded asset like an image, I will go to Unsplash and let's go look for a tree. And I will borrow this tree rings image. So let's say copy image address, go to P5 Live. Let's say we're going to have an image. We're going to preload that data and say image is actually loading an image from this URL, which is really unique that we can customize the size and quality of it because it's being dynamically served. And then I can say image using my IMG, mouse X, mouse Y, and here's this image. So this is, again, being loaded remotely from another server. If I wanted to use this offline, let's start out with the same sketch in our offline localhost version. I'm going to create a new sketch, paste, and give this a name. I'll call it tree remote. And so this is coming from remote. And to use this picture offline, I should download it. So let's right click and say save image as. And I should put it inside of my P5 Live, inside of my data folder, and I'll call this tree rings. And please don't hide the extension, .jpg. Let's just call it JPG. Then I will go back to my offline version, and I could technically just disable this. It'll break for a minute. And now what I can do is say image equals, actually, let's be a little bit better than that. Let's leave that on. Let's clone the sketch, call this one tree local, and then simply remove this and say image equals load image. It needs to look inside of the data folder, and we called it tree rings.jpg, and there it is. It's loading it now completely offline from this folder, this data folder that's waiting for you. In my actual P5 Live folder where I'm developing it and everything, I have a data folder where I try to keep things semi-organized. So I have, if I'm loading posters, if I'm loading images, if I'm loading 360-degree footage or videos or libraries, all kinds of things, models for 3D, no, this is for some machine learning, 3D models. I try to keep it per the type of media organized inside of different folders. So my data folder has gotten quite full. It doesn't matter. It's just being pulled into the browser on demand. So you can use this as a place to hold these things and be as organized as you'd like. So this was loading an image both remotely or locally. To load libraries, I'll show you an example that's sitting there under libraries. Let's look at the Voronoi. And to create a library, to add a library into your sketches in P5 Live, we just have to use the variable letlibs equal, and then you use an array to tell it all the libraries that you'd like to add. You just put each one as a string. So what is happening here is we can even use the same library multiple times. Here it's saying, go grab that library remotely online. Also grab it locally, sitting inside of the P5 Live folder, and go grab a demo data for this sketch. So if I turned off the internet, this one would fail, but this one would succeed. So you can be ready for being online and offline, or you're just working offline and you just throw your libraries inside of your data folder and you load them that way. So this is loading a special library. It's loading some extra code, and then it's processing all of that stuff. Here I have a glitch library waiting for you to experiment with. Again, you just put as many of these libraries as you need in there or load them locally. Similar for fonts. If I go typo, text to points, here I have a font waiting for you inside of the demos data, fonts, Roboto Mono regular. And we do a similar thing. This preload in P5 is how you grab assets to make sure that they're ready before you get into the setup. So like this, I can make sure that my font is ready to use. Inside of the setup, I can say, convert this type into points using a function that's described down here. There is an example for using Google Fonts, which is essentially an interesting hack of telling it, go create a style sheet, grab that font, and use it inside of here. This won't work in the 3D mode, but it will let you load kind of any font from their repository. This is using offline fonts. If you want to use an online font, you usually have to find a special place to host the font, which is CORS friendly, which is essentially a process where a server either allows you or doesn't allow you to load things remotely from their server. So a good place to load a font could be github.com or glitch.com to serve a project and files from there. If you definitely want it to be online or you wanted to co-code with others without using the fancy sharing of your offline P5 Live.